Hi, hello. Recently, at time of writing, there's a big discussion going around as to if Jotaro from part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures can beat Yuta Okkotsu from Jujutsu Kaisen, and I thought I'd weigh in. With that said, what can these combatants do in terms of their abilities? Jotaro is a lot easier to cover in that it's mainly his stand star platinum, an apparition of his life energy. It's invisible, it is capable of becoming intangible, it has an effective range of 2 meters for its punches, can shrink, stretch its fingers with star finger, and can literally suck real good. Of course, its most iconic ability is the time stop, where at its prime, Jotaro can stop time for 5 seconds. It is worth noting that people treat the time stop as a sort of on and off ability, but we know from the JoJo Valor's guidebook, which had a heavy involvement from Haraki himself, that Star Platinum achieves this by moving close to the speed of light. Sounds strange, but this is how time dilation works in real life. The closer you move to the speed of light, the more time slows down or stops from your perspective. Other stat pages actually back up the idea that time stop is tied to his speed, and given the relative recency of JoJo Valor book, this is probably the actual intention of how the ability works. Not bad. But Yuta, on the other hand, well, by default, he can manipulate cursed energy formed from negative emotions. It allows him to amplify his physical abilities, see in combat curses otherwise invisible, and curse techniques that are also otherwise invisible to non sorcerers. He can multiply the negative energy by itself with a reversed curse technique to create positive energy, allowing regeneration from most wounds if his brain is still intact. In fact, Yuta is one of the best users in the verse, as he can flesh out poison from someone else's body, which takes considerable skill. He's used it to regenerate from slashes. In the anime, JJK 0, he landed a Black Flash, which amplifies the strike by the power of 2.5, bringing out his full potential. If performed consecutively, it even restores his reverse curse technique output, although he can't do it on command. More importantly, he has his curse technique, Copy, which, as the name suggests, allows him to copy the curse technique of others. As for what he copies, there's cursed speech, which he can use to command others to die, described as stealing the life of a target. He's ordered them to not move, freezing them in place, as well as put people to sleep, crushing them, exploding them, etc. The effects can even be amplified with a megaphone, and it works to a regular phone as well. There's also Druff's technique, which can create mini shikigami that form a trajectory path that damages anyone caught in it, cutting them in the process. There's sky manipulation, which manipulates the sky in space as a surface used to reflect attacks or breaking the surface of the sky for limited spatial attacks with Thin Icebreaker, strong enough to damage even Sukuna, who was stronger than him at the time. He can negate any curse technique through the use of Jacob's Ladder, a beam of light that nullifies them. He can use Clairvoyance via G Warstaff, which uses manga panels to peer into the future. And finally, he has Shrine, invisible even to sorcerers who normally see invisible curses and invisible curse techniques. It fires slashes at the enemy. He can also use Cleave, which adjusts the cursed energy output to the target's ability through physical contact, damaging even the likes of Sukuna. In order to use all those curse techniques effectively, he has his cursed spirit Rika, which can fully manifest for 5 minutes when connected through his ring. She can flail back up her cursed energy reserves in order to supplement his own, and she has an assortment of different weapons within her that Yuta can use in combat, like a metal arm for enhanced defenses. Rika herself can fire beams of pure cursed energy, and she aids in combat even when far away. Finally, there's the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery, the domain expansion, which increases the stats and has a sure hit effect of Yuta's copy techniques. Within his domain are katanas, each of which is imbued with a technique that he has copied. That already is pretty stacked in terms of a moveset. However, there's more. Spoilers for Jujutsu Kaisen manga, skip to the strength durability section, timestamp below. So, Yuta piloted Gojo's corpse, give him access to all of Gojo's abilities. This includes both the six size, which enhances his perception and gives him perfect cursed energy control, meaning he basically never runs out. Also give him access to the limitless technique. With the power of infinity, this inviolable space only converges. Approaching objects will forever approach. It's a barrier that manifests infinity and prevents contact. It automatically selects the target of the technique's effect according to the mass and danger level of the approaching object. The closer it gets, the slower it becomes. Does so by manipulating spacetime at the atomic level, being likened to the Achilles and the turtle paradox and to a convergence of an infinite series. It can be strengthened even to crush an opponent against a wall. Right from this limitless, there's blue, which creates a pulling force, and by multiplying the negative energy with itself, creating positive energy, it can instead create a repulsive force. The positive energy can also be used for regeneration, and by combining the amplified and the reversal, virtual mass is created, the imaginary technique, purple. Finally, there's Gojo's domain expansion, Unlimited Void, which makes people endlessly repeat actions at the first step, flooding their brains with information at a rate of 6 months in zero point 0.2 seconds. So, with all that, it's pretty obvious that Yuta has a big advantage in terms of abilities. But maybe Jotaro can make up for it with power? Well, not Jotaro himself, given he's usually a normal-ish dude, still superhumanly strong by real-world standards, but not nearly as strong as Star Platinum, who can break a mouthful of giant, diamond hard teeth with a barrage of punches, worth about 187 kilograms of TNT at most per punch. It can also inhale a small town's worth of fog, worth about 8.7 tons of TNT in terms of energy at most. Although using kinetic energy for this is a bit dubious, given in the anime the fog is still there. Additionally, Star Platinum has an A rank in stats and is generally hyped up as one of the strongest stands, meaning it is likely comparable to other stands, such as the Sun, which heats up the air worth about 8.29 tons of TNT in terms of sheer heat energy, Red Hot Chili Peppers, which can absorb Morioh's electricity, worth about 7.8 tons of TNT, although its individual punches would be a smaller percentage of this energy, Killer Queen and its shared heart attack, which can cremate its victims, as well as cause level 3 earthquakes in Morioh, which is at best 21.8 tons of TNT worth, and Planet Wave, which can pull down meteors, which Shotaro's own daughter, Stan, can deflect. This is again worth about 46 tons of TNT. So, with all of that, you can probably surmise that some of the best feats in this nearly 1,000 chapter manga get to around city block level, being generous. Not bad, but even with that, Yuta is thousands of times stronger. Just by the right feats, Rika's blast against Kero makes a crater worth 11 kilotons of TNT. Additionally, being considered pretty much second only to Gojo and outright having more crushed energy than the strongest of today means it's comparable to almost any destructive feat in the series, including Jogo making a lava wave, some lava hands, and its maximum meteor, Kenjaku's Uzumaki making a crater, as well as an extremely weakened Sukuna's fire arrow melting Urame's glacier, all of which is extremely consistent, being all in the kiloton ranges. Even feats for much weaker characters, such as Toge's Plummet and Genesi's Punch Barrage, as well as Naruto running through some rocks, are tens to hundreds of times stronger and more than enough to one-shot Star Platinum, let alone Jotaro himself. But there is something some of you are probably saying by now. But Star Platinum is light speed. Meanwhile, in Jujutsu Kaisen, Mark 3 Naga is faster than anything. GG's. And you're right, Jotaro is stated flashing light, can fight those that are stated light speed, and fight those that are fighting lasers, and so forth. Meanwhile, if you ignore the much wackier speed feats in the anime, Yuta is like Max Speed or something. Just one itsy bitsy tiny little problem with that. While his Star Platinum is FTL, Jotaro absolutely cannot run that fast, meaning it's effectively anchored to someone whose running speed wouldn't even qualify him for the Olympics. We could seriously just stick to Chapter 1, no Karstani Yuji, running 50 meters in 5 seconds, or Yuta's own manga speed feats of running from edge to a roof, and it's already enough to run circles around Jotaro, let alone the anime only scenes where Yuta's running around at half the speed of sound, twist skips, and bug waves. What is Jotaro gonna do when Yuta just nukes him and the rest of the battlefield? Even if he stops time, he still can't really run all that far in 5 seconds. 5 meters in part 4 with his time stop, meaning it could last in 25 in his prime. Power gap is so comical. Star Platinum would need to be 30 meters away to survive any blast that Yuta throws at him. Yotaro is completely cooked. On top of that, Yuta has invisible slashes, which shrine and curse speech commands, both of which Jotaro has no way to expect. Yuta could tell him to die and GG, or tell him to not move and he'd be paralyzed, and so would Star Platinum. Not to mention a domain sure hit effect for both Cleave and Dismantle, which makes Star Platinum's light speed reactions kinda meaningless, even if it was somehow strong enough to block anything by Yuta to begin with. To quickly address some of the possible counter-arguments, firstly, could Joker throw a stop you to start or something? Not only has Jotaro never done this offensively, but it will likely take a really long time to kill Yuta, during which Jotaro is trapped in melee range with someone that can one-shot him. Even then, this probably wouldn't work. Not only is the inside of a sorcerer's body like a domain, preventing this sort of thing, but also Yuta has just straight up restarted someone's heart before. using his reverse curse technique, meaning this wouldn't work. Also, there's limitless if we give him that. What about time step barrage? Well, hitting someone 1,000 times is not the same as hitting them with one attack that's 1,000 times stronger. Barrages can't even break a steamroller if we're being fair here, and Star Platinum can only throw so many punches during a time stop barrage to begin with, which makes sense given how it works, as explained before. In conclusion, Yuta wins. That's all, folks. If there's any matchup you'd like to see me cover, comment it down below. All calculations are linked in the description, and have a wonderful day. Bye.